This is the same wall that Walter Rast and I spied from the road as we drove up during our 1973 survey. And we almost ran up the steep hills of Numera, came along and walked along the southern wall line, began to see possible wall lines of structures within the town site.
An examination of pottery shards convinced them they'd found another early Bronze Age town, just a few miles from Babadra. They called the new site Numera. Like Babadra, it was walled, but it was much smaller, home to a few hundred people at most.
We began to realize that this site was contemporary with Babadra, and eventually during our excavations we began to realize it was almost like a sister city.
I think it was a fairly prosperous town, but a kind of suburb of the larger city to the north, Babadra.
But unlike Babadra, Numera had been abandoned not too long after it was built.
Numera was occupied for a relatively brief period, perhaps no more than a century, and fortunately for archaeologists, never settled again, so nobody actually lived on top of it, dug into the remains, reused the stones.
Two settlements, one large, one small, a few hours' walk from each other. Was it possible they'd found Sodom's sister city of Gomorrah?
If Abraham goes way back in early history, the only sites from that period down to the Iron Age that are walled towns, that are sizable, are these two sites of Babadra and Numera. So they have become, in the minds of many, prime candidates for the ancient traditions of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Like Babadra, Numera showed signs that its inhabitants had fled and never returned, but not because of a war.
There's no signs of breaching of walls that would have occurred by warfare. There are no remains of weapons. There are no dead soldiers, as you find, for example, at a number of sites where there have been battles.